Okay, hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking operating systems. So what they are, where they came from, and which one to pick. And a quick caveat that this is going to focus mainly on operating systems for desktop and laptop. So if you're looking for something for mobile devices, if you're looking for something for Apple devices, this video is not for you. I will cover both of those in a future video, but this one is primarily desktop and laptop that are non-Apple. So as always in this video, I'm going to do four things for you. I'm going to give you a very brief guide to the history of operating systems. It's quite long, so we won't spend much time on that. I'm going to give you the capability to make your own decisions and choices. Right before I tell you, here's the one thing I think you should use, or here are your options, the most important thing is that I'm enabling you with the capacity to make your own choices and to not rely on one person's opinion. So please take everything I say with a pinch of salt, make your own opinion up. You have your own mind, you're you, so you do your own thing. I am then going to give you some options that I have personal experience of and explain why I tend to use them before letting you know just the one I use as my daily driver on a regular basis. So once again, the point of this is absolutely not to provide you with shortcuts, but to provide you with information that helps you to be more enabled. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to have a look at, yes, good, it's all come up, a little bit of history. So the reason that it's called an operating system is pretty fascinating. The original operating system was actually a human. They were the operator of the computer. So they would take a call from somebody who says, hey, I need the computer to do this magical thing, and then they would operate it. Right, so that wherever you hear calls and operator, that's where that came from. Very, very functional. Now, what's largely considered one of the first technology-based operating systems came out in the 50s at the General Motors Research Division. And this really marked the first time that a machine was interacting with hardware instead of a person. Beyond there, loads more systems developed, but they were all very device-specific, all very unique, so not at all helpful for you and I. That would come much, much later. And it wasn't really until the late 60s that companies like IBM, Control Data, General Electric, and Xerox developed consistent and reusable operating system across their devices. Now, they were still very brand specific, but the journey of standardization had begun. And Unix was developed in the late 60s. And one of the really cool things about Unix was it was free. It was very, very easy to get if you knew and worked in those circles. And it became, for a short period of time, probably one of the most widely used operating systems across many different devices. So the free and open source community, FLOSS or FOSS, dependent on your definition, has a huge amount to thank Unix for, because this is really, in my opinion, where a lot of that all began. So, 70s and 80s, some of you will have been around at that time, some of you won't, but there was really a time where, although the software was developing as well and the operating systems were, they were the years of hardware. So much hardware came out, and that continued into the 90s, right, with our devices. And it wasn't really until the 90s that home computers, PCs, desktops came into their own in a major way. And of course, as we know, some of the biggest names came out at this time. So Windows, Mac OS, Mac OS X, as the main two, I would say proprietary and closed source players, while Linux, which definitely wasn't as pretty at the time, it's certainly improved since then, and BSD, or FreeBSD as it became, which was a modification of the Unix source code, emerged as the primary sort of free and open source providers. They were really the big guys of their time. So the early 2000s and 2010 then saw mobile devices, the hardware coming onto the market, and that brought a number of different challenges. And so the arguable winners from that were Apple's iOS and Google's Android. And Android, funnily enough, started off as a modified Linux system. So we've got Unix, and then Linux became the big thing, and then Android, and so we've carried on like that. The latter half of 2010 saw really China starting to ramp up. Right, a lot of what we've been talking about is Western systems and primarily developed in the US. Huawei came out with Harmony US, which has been built on or from, let's say, a combination of Linux and Android code. And they really have this across all of their devices. So this is more modern. Now, again, some of it's closed source, some of it's open source, some of it's proprietary, some of it's open. It's a little bit of a mix, as that seems to be the way a lot of organizations are going. And then the early 2020s, and we're still not there yet, but we're getting better, have seen a proliferation of mobile operating systems that are a lot more open, that are free and are non-proprietary. So just to name a few, we have Graphene, Purism, Calyx OS, E comes up as well quite a lot, and Postmarket if you want to do some funky stuff. So all sorts of things for the mobile landscape. So it really has. The operating systems have really developed with the hardware. There's always been this battle between closed and open source. But things like Unix, FreeBSD, and Linux were really the foundations and the continuance of free and open source. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And FreeBSD is incredible because Linux has probably a wider footprint at this time. And I would argue a larger ecosystem and community support, and probably is easier for first-time switchers away from Windows or Mac OS to get used to. I'm going to focus on Linux. That's not to say I think Linux is better than BSD or vice versa. I just think it's more practical for what we're trying to do. So the challenge is when you enter Linux for the first time, it can be quite intimidating, right? Rather than just Windows or OS X or OS, whatever you want to call it. There are thousands of choices when it comes to Linux. And that's because it's just fundamentally different. Its kernel, the core part of the operating system, was made free and open source, which is phenomenal. And then inevitably, thousands of people had different ideas as to how that should be used. There were different use cases, different philosophies, different ideas. And so over the last 30 to 40 years, you have this quite complex ecosystem. And so when you're first coming to Linux and you're getting advice from 1,000,001 people as to which version of Linux you should use, and everybody's got their thoughts and they're fighting it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like, screw this is too much choice. I don't want to make this choice, right? So I thought I'd try and clear that up just a little bit for you. And again, because this is a big topic, go away, do your own research, but I at least wanted to give you some starting points that I didn't have when I was starting out. So arguably, there are 5 major use cases for Linux that have come up, and each of those spawned its own sort of family of operating systems. So when Linux started, when it really early on, there were a lot of enthusiasts, people who could see the potential of this, the proliferation where it could go, and they tended to lean towards Slackware. So I personally don't have much experience with Slackware, but my understanding is that it is very enthusiast. It's OG. If you have been involved in Linux for a long time, you are probably embarrassed by my lack of knowledge of Slackware. But Slackware was the OG, where a lot of this early development first started. Now, as always, whenever there is innovation, one of the things that happened is that large companies see this innovation very quickly. And so you imagine you're a large enterprise company. You're a global organization. You're absolutely massive. you really need to manage risk, security, you need to manage permissions, you need to have a lot of control of everything that's being run. Linux gave them that option, but they needed a series of really more built-out operating systems so that they could roll it out, have some standards. And that's really where the Red Hat family was born. So anywhere you see Red Hat Linux, I believe that Fedora Linux enthusiasts will crucify me for not knowing the difference on the pronunciation of that one. But RHEL, this is all from this family. Now, it's proliferated out, as you can see from this diagram, quite a lot. Some of these desktops, some of these are enterprise, but the original core, the original purpose was to have this really, really secure and solid for the enterprise. What also came out of Slackware and another was, and Jurix, was SUSE. I call it SUSE Linux. No idea if that's the right pronunciation. And this was more like, hey, we want something really professional grade, prosumer, still want the security, still want the options, still want the control, still want some really professional grade tools, don't need the weight, the complexity of Red Hat. And frankly, there are just a couple of other things that I want to do and a couple of different philosophies. So this was another giant family that came out of this. Occasionally, from what I've seen, a lot of specialist tools end up in SUSE. So go check it out. Again, all of these, by the way, all the ones that I'm talking about are phenomenal. They've been going for so long, and all the branches of these families have been going for so long that they really do have an incredible community skill set of ideals. Just brilliant. So the only other two I'm going to talk about, and I will share this link so you can go and explore yourself. Debian. So Debian really was founded on, hey, we want to keep this free. We want to keep this open source. We want to make it friendly for users. We want to, and it evolved, I think, into being one of the easiest families to move away from Windows or Mac or Google onto. Really much more for everyday computing, day-to-day for the casual or semi-power user. And this is one of the biggest families of distributions that are alive today. So we're going to talk a little bit about Debian a little bit more later. And then finally, if I can find it on this rather gigantic graph, this shows how huge it is and why I'm doing this, why I personally found it so difficult. Getting used to this. Here we go, our good friends, Arch Linux. So Arch is cool. If you are researching Linux now and you're looking for cutting edge, most people are going to be talking about Arch. These are sort of, in my opinion, again, modern enthusiast systems with the sort of cutting edge features and all sorts of stuff. It's a really new community. It's, in my opinion, it's almost like the third or fourth generation of Slackware, but all new breed. I don't use many Arch systems myself because you do usually have to spend a bit longer setting them up, maintaining them, keeping them running. And I don't have the time for that, but I think the Arch family are doing some really just incredible stuff and very, very cool. So there are lots of other families. You've seen me scroll up and down this graphic here. If I zoom out again, you're going to see what this looks like. And I think I haven't found a more up-to-date version, so if anybody knows of one, let me know. This one takes us up to 2023. But that's why it can be difficult. So the key thing when you're looking at Linux is don't start with which distribution should I get. Start with what is it that I need? What are my normal habits? What are the programs that I'm used to using? And which distribution can help me to find that out? The good news is There are so many resources. Again, right, this is the open source community with everybody is very friendly. They want to help each other. They want to encourage the use of this. So you have a lot of choice when it comes to the resources that you use to help you figure out which distribution to use. I'm going to recommend two YouTube channels. The first is DistroTube, and DistroTube makes some really just a wide range of videos from very beginner, and this particular video that I'm going to link to in the description is a great one just to get started. If you've never ever touched Linux, start here. But DistroTube also do some really fun deep dives on topics as well. So if you go beyond just, hey, I just want something basic to run my PC on, to getting really interested in Linux, fantastic channel. And the other channel that I'd suggest is going to be, let me just refresh this page so at least the lovely screenshot comes up. Because I quite like this. Look at that happy smiley face. Who couldn't love that? Is Chris Titus Tech. So Chris Titus does, again, a fantastic job at really explaining how to pick your Linux system. And he also has a site that helps you go through those steps as well. So, again, go check out these two channels. They know infinitely more than I do about Linux, and they've really created some incredible content for you, from first-time user all the way through to expert. Now, if you don't like learning and you're just looking for a shortcut, you can get the machines to decide for you. The one popular way to do that is through this site called DistroChooser. Asks you a few questions, puts you down a decision tree, and then it spits out, hey, I think you should use this distribution. So if you're looking for something to do in 3 minutes, that's a really good pick. You can use your local friendly LLM as well to help you decide which one might be for you. Caveats, they're LLMs. They may or may not give you good information. So just be wary with what you're doing there. And finally, if you want to really dig into a particular distribution, I want to look at the licenses and what technology it's for and what I can do with it and what the reviews are and blah, 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 go to DistroWatch. And please don't be fooled by the UI. I have come to love this UI, which I find horrible, but lots of other people will find beautiful. That's the joy of art. It's very much a personal opinion. But yeah, DistroWatch is, again, just phenomenal. I mean, so many detailed comparisons. Don't be fooled by the UI. It's packed with incredible information, reviews. You've got league tables. You've got the ability to search and get really granular. It's such a wonderful source of information. This is sort of my both starting port of call for when I want to discover a new distribution that I might want to try. It's also my ending point when I want to decide, do I really want to invest the time, the energy, and the effort into this distribution that might go nowhere? Is this a hobby or something that's going to become real? So thoroughly recommend this site. Okay, so what do I like? Right, what again, I'm not going to tell you what you should do. Please don't listen to me. This is all, we're now very much in the opinion section of things that Dan has used, tried, and my own personal preferences. I like to focus on Debian-based systems. I love the Debian family, and primarily it's because of their social contract and the Debian-free software guidelines. You can see that this has been going for a long time and has really been thought about. And a lot of the values, a lot of the philosophies that Debian and their families share are things that I value. You may go down this list and say, I don't care about any of this stuff, which is completely fine. But that's why I choose Debian. It's the ethic that I would like to support. So I support it in my actions and through evangelizing it for new users. But that's just me. So there are a few different things that you can use in the Debian family. I'm going to give you, I think, 6 that I think will be useful. And these are sort of a spread that I hope will carry some common use cases. Zorin OS is probably the most familiar looking operating system if you have ever used a Windows machine. It's going to be the easiest one for you to switch to. I personally don't use Zorin anymore. I think it makes some compromises. But if you're looking just for, I mean, you can see the words, and I agree with these. It is easy. I'm not sure if it's more powerful, but it is just the, hey, I just want to dip my toe in this and try this out and see what this is like. Zorin is a really, really good option for you. The other one that I think is really good for people entering the world of Linux is Linux Mint. Phenomenal, big community, really, really focused. They actually build on the core of Debian, and so this is the addition that I like. I won't go too deep into Ubuntu versus Debian. If you want to get into that, feel free. I think if I cover that in this video, I might open up a can of worms with Linux lovers everywhere. But I use the Debian edition again for reasons that I've already outlined. And so I'm giving something away here, but Linux Mint is my personal daily driver. I think it has a good combination of security, new features, strong community, good support. Most things work on it. It's got friendly interfaces that I like. I can customize it. So it's got all the things that I need as an individual. If you really want to be true to the cause, a little bit more than I am, then you either go with the mainstream of Debian. So this is sort of the core, the guy that lives forever, has the biggest community. It is very, very pure in it being a free operating system. So the core of Debian, so old, but also so solid. So very, very good for reliability. And Triskel. Triskel is basically free. Free in all cases. It's not going to do a lot of the fancy stuff that you want it to do. In my opinion, it's not the most beautiful distribution, but it is, to my knowledge, the operating system that ties most to all of the ideals of FLOSS as it can. It means it has to strip a lot out, but it is very, pure as an operating system. So if you just need to do some absolutely basic stuff or manage some stuff at home, do some bits and pieces. I mean, it does a lot. I'm downselling it, but go check it out. Very, very cool distribution. On perhaps the other end of the scale is Pop. If you are somebody who likes to create, so if you work in either STEM or really creative fields, go have a look at Pop OS. Really, really incredible. Fantastic support for NVIDIA GPUs. If I was a full-time creator, media editor, I would be all over Pop OS. Again, not going to go into the details why, just go and have a look at it. Lastly, you may be looking at this saying, Dan, that's great. I like the idea of Pop, but actually I have an incredibly underpowered machine rather than an overpowered machine, and I just need something that works. And for that, for you, I probably suggest MX Linux. Again, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles, but MX Linux, in my experience, will almost run on anything. It's highly optimized to run on lower powered devices. Still very elegant, looks nice. Again, go check that out. I think the only other OS that I'm going to that I'm going to highlight, is actually on Arch. I think the group of folks working on Endeavour are doing something really special in that they're using a lot of what makes the Arch family incredible. But they are, I think, focusing a lot more on making things easier, more personalized, but in an easier way. And I think this is a one to watch. It's got a lot of positivity in the Linux community as well. So it's definitely worth checking out. As I said, maybe in the future I might end up switching to Endeavour. For now, I am all about Mint. The only other thing that I'd suggest that I forgot in the resources earlier, go check out Reddit. Reddit has phenomenal communities for Linux. So they have all sorts of communities, wiki articles, and helpful people that will not just introduce you to Linux, but give some advice. And that group of people really helped me move, and they're very connected to beyond the operating system. You know, what else can we do with these applications? Okay, I think that is probably quite enough for this video. The last thing I'm going to round off by saying, the same caveat that I always do. One, don't believe anything I tell you. I am somewhat new to this myself, so still getting started, still learning. I'll be learning forever. So go and seek the advice of professionals that have been doing this for a long time, and make your own decisions. Always check that whatever you're going to pick works for your hardware. A lot of the time it won't, so make sure that it does. Back up your data. Anytime you do anything, just back up. You know, I think with Linux, there's possibilities with some distributions that you will do something wrong. So look at lots of guides, make sure you do things right, but also back up your data to avoid losing anything important. I think, yeah, like, don't just choose a distribution because it's popular and everyone's telling you to use it. Popular doesn't always mean good. Think about what it is that you want. Have a look at the licensing, have a look at the applications that are going to work on that operating system, and you'll be in a good place. Okay, so in the description below this video, I am going to add in all the links. So every single thing that you saw today will get a link underneath. I'm not going to give you a list of installation guides because I think that will push you to make a choice based on what I've said. So once you've decided what you need and what your operating system is going to be, go and look at all the resources that exist that tell you how to do it properly. Go find it yourself. Go fish. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just going to give you the links in the description. So, guys, I hope that helps. As always, I appreciate you watching this video, following along. Let me know what you think. Let me know what was helpful, what wasn't, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.